Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is Mike and Zach here from First Seed Fantasy Sports, your first seed for all fantasy football information. And we're here to talk about late round tight ends today. There's a couple names that we're both really excited about. Mike, what's your philosophy when it comes to tight end?
Tight ends is hard, man. I have a few late back of the draft spots this year, so I'm looking at tight end maybe first or second round this year to get the best one. But I've always been, if you don't get one of the best top three tight ends, you wait. And my philosophy this year is in most of those leagues, I am going to wait. So I'm looking 10th round and on, and that's who we're going to single in on today. Just some guys that you get to that 10th round, you got your flex, you got some of your bench guys already. Time to grab a tight end. These are some of the values that we're going to point out today.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I don't think it's worth wasting like a fourth round pick or a fifth round pick on a tight end when you could be hitting on a receiver that's really going to have a huge impact on your team. So I love your philosophy, and especially last season when you could have walked away with guys like Dalton Schultz or even like a Dawson Knox or a Hunter Henry in the late rounds of your draft. You're golden if you can hit on that guy, and it doesn't have to be realistically, you're not going to get that Andrews or Kelsey production, but if he's going to give you 10 a week, 8 a week, that's going to be enough to help win your week. So, without further ado, we have a couple names here that we're going to kind of break down a little bit and discuss. And the first of which is actually a huge name in the fantasy industry right now. Everyone seems to be on this guy, and I feel like maybe we're jumping on board a little bit, but that's okay. And that's Cole Kmet, the tight end for the Chicago Bears. Kmet had a quietly nice season last year. It wasn't very pretty for fantasy purposes just because he had an anomalous 0 touchdowns. I don't know how he could have played all 17 games and not found the end zone once. It's kind of insane when you think about it, especially when you factor in that he had 60 catches and almost 600 yards. So Cole Kmet is really an intriguing option this year with Allen Robinson's departure, with Jimmy Graham's departure. There's just targets are kind of drying up. So it really feels like it's going to be legit just Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet in this offense. So I love Cole Kmet, and I think he has to positively regress and catch a couple touchdowns. And if he comes out with the same stat line of 60 catches for 612 yards and, maybe throw in 3 or 4 touchdowns, that's a borderline top 10 tight end right there. That's a great value. So what do you think about him, Mike?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking the same exact thing with him, mainly just because of the vacated targets there. I mean, he's got an opportunity. He's very athletic. We've seen kind of what he could do on the field already when he gets the ball in his hands. It's really hard to go off of last year. They couldn't even get Allen Robinson the ball, so it's kind of like really not a good way to look at it. But Cole Kmet finished as tight end 20 last year, averaged 7.1 points again, or a game, PPR rather, and was healthy for the full season. That's also beautiful. If you're going to wait for a late round tight end, you don't want somebody with injury history. You want somebody that's going to be out there, hopefully, for the full 17 games out of the 18-game season. So, yeah, this is a guy that finished as tight end 20 and definitely has that potential, like you said, to sneak into that top 10 this year. And for an ADP after the 10th round, I mean, that's beautiful. You don't want to be one of those guys reaching for the tight end in the 6th, 7th round when you're getting the same value in the later round. So that's one of the guys I really love there. I'm going to focus in on another tight end now that I'm really liking here, and that is going to be Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett is in a great spot with the Chargers now. I really think that he has a chance to kind of shine in that offense. Cole Kmet was tight end 20 on the year last year. Gerald Everett with Seattle was tight end 21. He averaged 7.9 points a game PPR. And that is also in a Seattle offense that really didn't feature a tight end at all. So you were still getting some decent value from him. And there was also a few tight ends floating around in Seattle that he was battling out here and there. So made the most of his situation. I think he's an athletic freak. I think just with Justin Herbert in that system now, he's going to be reliable. You look at who they had last year with Jared Cook, and it was like they did try to get Cook the ball. Cook at one point was a decent flex play every now and then if you had to. And obviously Cook's age just got the best of him in that year there. So Gerald Everett, they brought him in for a reason. I think it's just going to be one more sick weapon for Justin Herbert to abuse this year. And I think that easily gives him the potential to sneak into that top 10 this year, as well as draft him after the 10th round.
Yeah, I think he's got huge value. Especially like you said, after that 10th round mark where you're drafting guys who are going to be on your bench. If you don't wind up getting one of those guys, those premier guys that kind of go at the top of the late rounds, if that makes sense. I'd love Everett. I think that Herbert is going to be a touchdown machine this year. We saw last year he looked to his big target Mike Williams a lot in the red zone, and Everett's 6'3". He's a load of a dude, and he can run the ball. I'm sorry, he can run well up and down the field. So I think that there's a great opportunity for him to catch the ball in the red zone, especially this year, which is key when it comes to picking a tight end. For the same reason we said that Cole Kmet wasn't a great option last year. Gerald Everett, it could be the exact opposite. He could farm in the red zone, where he's just catching touchdown after touchdown. So I love Everett as well. I think that's a great selection you have there, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. What are we moving on to now? Well, who's your next tight end you're looking at this year?
Well, we're going to stay in the realm of athletic freaks here, and we're going to talk about Irv Smith Jr., a guy who is coming off, I believe, a season-ending ACL injury last year. I know it was something to do with the lower half, but yeah, he missed out on a lot in that Minnesota offense last year, and he's going to step into an even bigger role this year. He is no longer competing with, if you think a couple years ago, no longer competing with Kyle Rudolph. He doesn't have to worry about Tyler Conklin, who departed for the Jets. It's really just him there. And he's always been touted as this athletic monster, a huge receiving tight end. And supposedly Kevin O'Connell is going to bring in an offense where they're just going to throw the ball all over the place. So, I have inflated projections for Justin Jefferson, for Adam Thielen, and even for Irv Smith. And I think where you're getting him in the what's his ADP right now, Mike? What does that say? 131.3.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so that's roughly about the 11th round there.
Correct.
That's incredible value, especially if he feels. I feel pretty confident about saying he's going to end up top 10 by the end of the season. I think I can confidently say that. So I love Irv Smith. I think he's going to have a huge target share this year. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, no, Irv Smith is he's been there for a little bit now. Brand new offense, and like you said, that OC is going to come in and just open things up. So he has the opportunity, as well as he also is an athletic freak. You look at some of these guys that really just never got used to start their careers. He's one of them, and he's going to have that opportunity this year, and most likely a pass first offense. So if he does get the target share, he should be an animal in the red zone. Obviously, they got a few weapons there, but the departure of Kyle Rudolph definitely helps, because I remember, I think for the past 2 seasons, Kyle Rudolph would come in, or rather not last year. I think he was traded at that point. But
yeah, he was a giant last year, but in 20 and 19, yeah.
Right, and he would come in and steal a touchdown here and there, and Irv
Yep.
Smith never really retained that role, and he's all alone. So, the opportunity's there this year. Pass first offense, all the signs are looking up for him. Most likely his biggest downfall might be that he plays on a team with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, the value's there. This is another guy. He's being drafted even later than the 2 first guys that we mentioned here.
Right.
So
Oh,
this is
yeah.
some sneaky, or rather above Gerald Everett, but below our other guy here. Let's see, Kmet, below Kmet. So yeah,
Yeah, there he is. He's what's that? 131 there, rank.
let's see. Yep, there it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful ADP, man. I mean, this is a guy you could even wait longer for. This is a guy that most likely most redraft leagues will not take. And why not take a flyer on him in the 14th, 15th round? He's going to sneak in there. I think he will be drafted, but it is a possibility that this guy just falls and falls,
Right.
mainly because he's not a big household name, and he really didn't do much last year, especially with the injury and not really being seen that much. So yeah, another late round tight end target that I would be ecstatic to take late, and just obviously if you take a tight end that late, usually I like to have 2 of them. So that's like a guy I would draft a tight end in the 12th and then again in the 15th, something like that. But I would be very confident with having him cycle in.
Well, and I think another little interesting storyline there too is I don't know if you saw this week, Mike, but apparently it came out that Mike Zimmer didn't like Kirk Cousins at all. Um,
Hmm.
so like I said, that's a little storyline. I think we could see Kirk playing with a chip on his shoulder this year, and I'm actually kind of I think I'm going to stat him out. I haven't gotten to the Vikings yet, but I think I'm going to stat him out for a career year. I really think he's gonna move the ball all over the place this season, and O'Connell's going to kind of let him open it up. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think Irv could be one of the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Contract year for Kirk, man. Brand new
Yeah.
OC. And if that does hold true, that story that they had some issues, I mean, that's never easy to be a
Mm-mm.
quarterback of a football team, try to lead them and not see eye to eye with your head coach. That's usually a difficult situation. So,
Right.
yeah, if he's a lot comfortable there, I could see Minnesota as a whole taking a huge offensive leap this year, possibly even competing with the Packers this year for that division. So,
Absolutely.
um,
Something to keep an eye on. Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm going to move on to my next tight end here, and that is going to be Hayden Hurst. That is another late round tight end that I know we talked about, Zach. We both absolutely love this year. He's being drafted even later than all the previous guys we had mentioned there, an ADP of 179. There he is. But with the departure of Uzama, he's really there alone this year. So he's gonna another tight end that's gonna have a great opportunity, excuse me, to step into a profound offense, an offense that made the Super Bowl last year, upgraded the O line in the offseason, and just has a lot of expectations to deliver this year. And I think he's going to be a part of that. You know, that offense is so well spread out. You got Jamar Chase stretching the field all over the place. You got T. Higgins to do the dirty work, Tyler Boyd to take everything underneath. And Hayden Hurst, I feel like, is going to be that sneaky tight end that could squeak into the top 10 potentially, and nobody would even bat an eye. This
Hmm.
is a guy that I absolutely don't think will be drafted in most redraft leagues, and that's the beauty of it. He's down there well enough where you could really snag him in the last 3 rounds of your draft. And
Absolutely.
why not? Starting tight end on that kind of offense, man, who potentially might have the best offense in the league coming into this year. That's something you want. You're not going to not want a piece of Hayden Hurst. Most likely, Hayden Hurst is going to be that guy that starts putting up those 9, 10, 11 point games
Hmm.
consistently. And eventually, someone's going to pick him up, realizing that the tight end they took in the 7th round is not giving you that consistent value. So you can't go wrong with a good tight end, a veteran tight end at that, on a very good offense. So I'm excited for Hayden Hurst this year. What are you thinking,
Yeah.
Zach?
And we have I think we're gonna work on a video coming out later on this week about value in bad offenses, but this is actually the opposite. This is just kind of taking a guy that's attached to a great offense, and that you can never really go wrong with that. Last season, if you slotted T. Higgins, you slotted Tyler Boyd into your lineup, you were happy because there's so much offensive production in that on that team that you just want a little piece of it. It's similar to the Chiefs or similar to like we just talked about the Vikings. There's just a lot of offensive talent to go around. So
Mhm.
for a guy like Hayden Hurst to step into again a very very empty tight end room and be the guy there, I love it. I think he's got great value. Um, Looking at CJ Uzama's game log last year, he had a couple games where he went over 20, but mostly he floated right around in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range week in and week out. And that's what I expect out of Hurst. And realistically, you're happy with that at the end of the season. If you need to plug a guy in there and he's going to come down with, I don't know, 4 catches for 58 yards, that's 9.8 points right there in PPR. So you're just looking for a guy that's going to bridge the gap and not give you that dreaded donut in there. And I think that that's what Hurst can be. I love the upside on Hurst, and I think that as you said, Mike, taking him in the dead last round, he gives such good value. So, and no one else is probably going to touch him. So, Hayden Hurst is another name that I like. And I'm going to toss it back to you because I know this is a guy you're especially happy with and especially interested in. So go ahead, Mike. Intro our last tight end here.
Yeah, so our last late round tight end that we are looking at this year that I'm very excited on in particular is Noah Fant. This is another obviously athletic freak. Never really got a true role in Denver. He had spikes every now and then where he would flash his talent and they would actually feed him the ball. But there was always just issues in Denver getting people the ball in general. So that was always a thing that he kind of had to fight that uphill battle with. I think it is going to be a lot easier for him now in Seattle to obtain those targets. You're looking at a bad football team, gonna have to go to the air a lot, even though Pete Carroll is a run first guy, always has been. Um, Noah Fant, I think, is going to be a huge part of this team. They got him for a reason. They didn't want to do that trade for the QBs without him. I think he's going to step in right away. He's going to be an athletic freak, and he's going to go to work. Last year, in a struggling Denver offense, he still was able to play 16 games, finish as tight end 12, average 9.9 PPR points a game. That's the highest average out of all the guys we named from last year. And obviously, you can't put too much stake into that because he did switch teams here. But I actually think that he's in a better situation than he was last year. Quarterback situation obviously sucks, but I think that's always a good thing for running backs and tight ends when that kind of stuff happens. The dump downs, the check downs, the safety blanket. Noah Fant is that guy, I believe, that is going to average out right around 8 to 10 points on the year. And he's also, like all the other guys we named, going to have that potential maybe 1 week here, 1 week there to give you that 20-point game. So, I mean, getting a 20-point game from any of these guys, you could take a victory lap. That's a win. You draft a tight end after the 10th round and he's giving you 20 on multiple weeks. I mean,
Mhm.
that's all you could ask for at that point. But realistically, usually the target, like we had mentioned, is you want to look for the guy that's going to average right around 10. If you're going to draft one that late, obviously the tight end is going to be the weak spot of your team. Therefore, you're looking for that average around 10. And I think Font with this offense, whether it's Geno or Drew Lock at QB, I think he can make some noise. I know that they're going to struggle getting the ball to DK and Tyler Lockett, and that just gives him a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think you essentially said it all there, Mike. I think that one of the key factors is going to be who steps in at quarterback. I was taking a look at some stats here while you were talking. I was trying to figure out what games um, Drew Lock played last year, especially, with Noah Fant at the same time. And he started week 16, 17, 18. And in one of those 3 weeks, Noah Fant actually had, it looks like 6 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown, which was good for 21.2 fantasy points. So there's definitely some rapport with Drew Lock. Obviously, Locke didn't get to start a lot of the season last year. There's a chance that he doesn't start the season this year. So we'll kind of have to keep an eye on that quarterback situation. But I think that regardless, Noah Fant is such an athletic presence on the field that he's going to demand the ball in some way, shape, or form. So, alongside DK Metcalf, who's probably going to take away some double teams, aside from Tyler Lockett, who's going to work that underneath stuff, I think that leaves a lot. If you kind of look at the Kansas City Chiefs format of offense, they had Tyreek, who was their deep threat. They had guys like Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle on the outside that could kind of take away some of that underneath stuff, and that left a lot of the middle of the field open up for Travis Kelsey. I kind of see obviously something a lot lighter than that happening in Seattle, but you have DK who can take off the top. You have Tyler Lockett for underneath, and that leaves the middle nice and open for the tight end. So I think Fant it has a potential um, to bust into that top 10. I don't necessarily want to bet my life savings on it, especially because, as we mentioned earlier, Mike, there are a lot of other tight ends in Seattle. They just like to hold on to tight ends because, like you said, they are a run first team. So
Mhm.
they prioritize the run block and things like that. But Fant is just so athletic that there has to be some role for him in this offense. So I think that you're throwing a dart with Fant, but I think that it's a great potential opportunity. So
Yeah.
I love this pick here.
Yeah, absolutely. Seattle's going to be interesting. Obviously with Russ was never really into tight ends, never really
Mhm.
fed them, never really went after them with that system. But I don't believe that that Seattle offense is going to look the same this year. They obviously have to adjust with the quarterback change. So
Right.
I think just incorporating Fawn that offense is going to help the play action as well.
Yeah.
He's such a freak. He's a big body. He's known for being a pretty decent run blocker, pass blocker. So I think he's going to get a shot. And the veteran tight end there is someone I used to love, Will Dissly, who's been through it and again, but he's been on Seattle for a little bit here. So yeah, he's got a great opportunity there. I'm really excited for him. Yeah, so we listed 5 tight ends here that we absolutely love with an ADP after the 10th round. We have Cole Kmet, Irv Smith, Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, and Noah Fant. Zach, after the 10th round, which of those guys would you love to have the most?
Um, I have to say, I think it's going to be Irv Smith for me. I think that just based on his ADP, just based on his potential target share in this offense, I think his upside excites me the most, and I think that I would even be willing to spend up, the 10th round, the 11th round to ensure that I'm getting this guy. So I'm going to say it's Irv Smith.
Yeah, I actually wish you said something different, but that is going to be my answer too. I just love the potential, man. There's so much hype around this new OC coming in and just
Yeah,
opening things up, and you know that he's going to be involved. And it doesn't even matter how many weapons are on that team. I feel like he's going to be just Mr. Consistent this year, giving
right,
you right around that average of 10 with the upside that any given week, if Kirk wanted to, could feed him the ball in the end zone and get him maybe 20 points.
right.
So that's
Well,
another name. Him and I would say Gerald Everett are neck and neck for me. I really love both of those
yeah.
values. But
Well, we
yeah,
saw.
all right.
I was going to say we saw Tyler Conklin succeed in the Minnesota offense last year. So
Right.
and no one knew who Tyler Conklin was going into the season. So to take a guy from Alabama with the pedigree, I love it. I think Smith's going to have huge upside. And like you said, Everett's a favorite of mine too. So all right, Mike, let's stick a fork in it here. All right, those were some late round tight ends that you guys can target in your drafts. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm at ZCallFantasy. You can see Mike is at MDelCorso_. We're always down to talk shop. Of course, we have our underdog code underneath. You can use the code first seed for I believe it's a deposit match, correct? And we also, just to tease something, have another partnership coming down the road. We won't share too much about it yet until we're all official and confirmed, but we got some exciting things coming your guys' way. So we're happy you guys always tune in with us. Mike, you got anything for the good of the cause here?
No, man, ready to get that show what we partnered with here in these next few videos, and I hope
Absolutely.
you enjoyed this one.
Absolutely. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.